everybody. Jackie here from Tabona Life Ministry. Thank you for tuning in to this week's video. So God impressed in my heart to share with everybody why He seems so different in the Old Testament compared to the New Testament. So I've heard many people say the God of the Old Testament was full of wrath, was a warring God, a God that wanted to just fight wars, was very, ready to kill and ready to murder. And then the God of the New Testament is so full of love and is so different. So I was thinking about it, and God, everything in the Bible that God says and the way He says it is for the people He's dealing with. It's not Him. His character is love. If we believe 1 John 4 verse 8, it says God is love. Now, everything in the Bible, the Old Testament and the New Testament, should then be read from that understanding that God is love. So if that is the case, then God cannot be wrathful and want to kill and have war and then change and be loving and kind. God must have always been loving and kind. But then why all the wars? Why did God allow death? And why was God so strict in the Old Testament? And why does He seem to change? So my theory, and this is from my own personal studies and my own personal walk with God. So if you have any difference of opinion, or if you have any comments that you would like to share on how you perceive things, I would love to hear in the comments below. So please make sure to add in your opinions, and I do try and answer a lot of the questions and comments. But I have other duties. I'm a mother, I am a homeschooling mother, and I also teach online. I am an English teacher as well, and I'm starting this ministry. So if I don't get to all the questions, forgive me, I will try my best. Okay, so my theory is this, that God dealt with the human beings that He had to deal with in the way that He had to deal with them. And the mission in the Old Testament was to make a way for for Jesus to be born on earth and to sacrifice Himself on that cross. That was the reason that God dealt with situations in such an austere manner, because there was no other way, I believe. I believe people became so evil and so filled with hatred and anger that discussions weren't an option, that peaceful communication just was not an option. If you think about the way God dealt with Pharaoh, He tried to warn him peacefully 10 times, 9 times, and then the 10th plague was obviously the one where all the firstborns died. But if you notice, Pharaoh would not have it. He would not listen to reason. He would not accept anything that Moses and Aaron said to him. He wouldn't accept the plagues even. Like, God was trying to show Pharaoh, this is it, Pharaoh. This is the way it's going to be. And Pharaoh's heart just got harder and harder. And I believe that with the wars through the desert and throughout the Old Testament, it's because of the people that God was dealing with, and His mission to get Jesus born and to die on that cross was so important that God would allow wars, because remember, God is love, and God would never instigate a war or want a war. But if the war is the only option, then unfortunately that's the way it is. And so once Jesus was born and died on that cross, the mission was fulfilled. And so no more wars and no more dying, no more killings were necessary to get Jesus here. I believe that every time we go to war and every time we take people's lives, we are possibly killing people who may have been like Saul, who became Paul, and who spread the gospel far and wide. We don't know. In my previous video last week, I spoke about everyone being on a trajectory, on a journey with Jesus, either towards him or away from him or just with him. We don't know where people are at in their journey with Jesus. And so if someone was walking towards Jesus in their spiritual journey, but they were bad, say they were maybe selling drugs, or maybe they were even murderers, but they were about to meet Jesus. And then we say, okay, well, that person needs to die because that's a bad person. And we then prevent them from meeting Jesus and having eternal life. You see, so that is why we cannot judge, and why we cannot decide what happens with people's fate. And so I don't believe that the God of the Old Testament was ruthless and the God of the New Testament was full of love. God is love, always was love, always will be love, and love doesn't change. But God deals with situations in specific ways because of who he is dealing with. And I think also to get Jesus here, which was really everything. If Jesus didn't die on that cross, everything would be lost, everything, because no one would ever know that God was love. No one would ever know that God is completely self-sacrificing, completely unselfish, and that question would have never been answered, and we wouldn't have the peace of mind for eternity that we are going to have, the peace of mind that everything is wonderful, that God is true, and that there will never be sin again. Imagine having eternity and having to still deal with all these questions, like, is God really selfless, or is he selfish, as the devil said, because the devil started spreading rumors in heaven before he was thrown out of heaven. So we would always have these doubts. Imagine eternity with doubts, and eternity with all these questions. It wouldn't be paradise, it wouldn't be heaven, right? We are going to a place that is safe, where God's character cannot be questioned, where sin can never exist ever again. And so I think that is the reason why God seemed angry, but it wasn't. It's the people. We are the ones who are angry. We were the ones who wanted to war and kill and just, so yes. And luckily Jesus showed us a better way, a new way of dealing with everyone. Love your neighbor, love your neighbor. Of course, in the Dark Ages and with the Roman Empire, Satan had his reign again, where everyone was being killed, and in the name of religion. I mean, isn't that just so clever? Like, if you are Satan and you want to turn people against God, use religion to kill everyone. Isn't that terrible? And I hope we never go that way again, but it does say in Revelations that it will become that way, that people will be forced to worship the beast, and if you don't, then there will be a death decree. My next video I'm planning to make is about the last days and how we survive the last days. So if you're interested in these topics and you like my channel, please like this video and subscribe and hit the bell notification so that you are told whenever I release a new video. Thank you so much for watching. Thank you for your comments. Thank you for subscribing. I really appreciate it. Take care for now, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.